Disconnected, drained, hopeless, and searching. How community, purpose, presence, and hope heal us. What if the exhaustion so many of us feel isn't just physical? What if the loneliness isn't random? And what if the emptiness isn't a failure, but a signal? In today's episode of Cut to the Chase at 8, we're exploring why so many of us, including me, feel disconnected, drained, hopeless, and searching, and how community, purpose, presence, and faith and hope have the power to heal us. We'll talk about why modern life is quietly isolating us, what the world's longest living cultures do differently, and how faith without action keeps us stuck, and how putting feet to our faith can restore connection, meaning, and joy. So take a breath, settle in with me, and let's get into it. Hey y'all, I'm Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who's my biggest fan and my BFF, my best friend for real. And I'm a celebrity certified personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. I was born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, and built in Los Angeles. I trained at Juilliard with School of American Ballet, becoming the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion, appearing in over 450 fitness DVDs, and the first of those 450 DVDs was led by celebrity trainer Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity personal trainer, I've worked with Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee, Dancing with the Stars, and The Masked Singer champion. And as a sports and entertainment media host, I've had the joy of interviewing Richard Branson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, my favorite, Tyler Perry, Tiana Taylor, Justin Baldoni, and Issa Rae. And I share my story to honor the millions of sacrifices my mom planted in me so that I could blossom and flourish into the woman I am still becoming. So, wherever you're listening from, please pull up a digital chair, grab some hot or cold herbal tea, and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, a 15-minute micro-learning moment for macro living. And I am so overjoyed that you are here because this is where we explore life, spirit, mind, and body through lived experience and intentional growth. So join me daily for just 15 minutes, twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central, because this is your daily pause for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, for allowing grace in this space, and for intentional decision making. Each episode, my offer to you is 3 keys and 1 question to reflect on. Something practical, something grounded, and something you could carry with you, hopefully. So let's breathe together. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready. Let's get set. And let's grow. All right, we are settled in. So wherever you're listening from right now, if you're driving, walking, cooking, resting, being a caretaker, and thank you for doing that, or just pausing, I want you to feel this space as a soft place to land. So here's today's question, as I like to start all of the podcasts. What if the exhaustion, disconnection, and emptiness so many of us feel isn't personal failure, but cultural design? So many of us today feel disconnected, drained, hopeless, and searching. And what's wild is that we've never been more digitally connected, yet emotionally isolated. We have more tools, more access, more apps, more technology, but less presence, less intimacy, less community, and less meaning. And the cost of that is showing up everywhere, in our bodies, in our relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, work relationships, our faith, our work, and our emotional health. So why does this matter? In the United States especially, we live in a culture that worships and idolizes. We idolize and worship productivity, performance, visibility, status, success. But rarely do we ever center presence, connection, purpose, service, community. We are trained to climb, not connect, to accumulate, not cultivate, to hustle, not heal. And slowly, that disconnect chips away at our joy, our peace, and our sense of belonging. Which brings us to the wisdom of the world's longest living cultures. Key number one: community is medicine. There's a long running scientific study called the Okinawa Centenarian Study, which examined why people in Okinawa, Japan live so long, stay cognitively sharp, and remain physically active well into their 90s and 100s. What researchers discovered wasn't just diet and movement, as we like to say in the United States, it was community and purpose. They found two powerful cultural principles: ikigai, meaning reason for being, and moe, lifelong social support groups. These weren't casual friendships, these were deep, consistent, multi decade relationships where people grew old together. They supported one another emotionally, spiritually, and practically. They gathered in joy, not just in crisis. And this created emotional safety, belonging, and purpose. Now compare that to American culture. We move constantly. We isolate easily. We replace community with convenience. And we gather mostly in moments of pain, not celebration. Lived experience. My experience with seasoned saints and community. I recently attended a funeral with my mom, and it was someone that I grew up with, one of my aunts. And I watched my mom surrounded by a group of men and women that I lovingly call seasoned saints, because that's what they called their senior ministry at her church, who I've been friends, and my mom had been friends with these people since middle school and some elementary and high school. And you're talking about decades of friendships, decades of shared stories. And I heard some of those stories when we went to Luby's, and decades of life. And I saw something powerful in the midst of their pain and their grief. They didn't just show up for grief. They longed for consistent connection in moments of joy, monthly gatherings, shared meals, laughter, and presence. That's what we experienced when we went to Luby's, which I'm not a fan of, but they are. And I realized there was a gap. So I started a group text, and I began organizing monthly outings and helping them with technology and creating spaces for joy and not just sorrow. And that to me was putting feet to my faith. I wasn't just praying, I wasn't just believing, but I was doing. And I saw a need and I filled it. Which brings me to key number two. Purpose heals what success can't. In Okinawa, elders are what I call seasoned saints. They remain active, respected, engaged, and needed. In the U.S., aging is often treated as something to hide and not something to be proud of. We don't revere history, we don't honor our seniors, and we certainly don't value wisdom in the U.S. And yet purpose is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and emotional health. In California, there's also a blue zone, communities where people live long, healthy lives. And one of the most powerful things I observed when I lived in LA was Shabbat. I had no idea what that was growing up in Texas. But in LA, every Friday evening when I would be driving and on my way to doing things that I did in LA, people would slow down. Their phones would be off, their cars would be parked, and I saw families walking and gathering and dressed nicely, and they shared meals and presents, and their presence together and their connection was restored. And it struck me. We live in a culture that glorifies exhaustion. But holiness often looks like rest and presence and stillness and being together. And they do this every Friday. They literally put feet to their faith. My lived experience, faith without action. Yeah, since I've moved to Texas, I have had a challenging time finding a church home and finding like real, genuine connection. and sometimes with people that I knew before I moved to Los Angeles. But what I see and what I've noticed is that we could go to church every Sunday, but the question I'm asking that I don't often see is I don't see people actually putting feet to their faith. Are we writing handwritten notes? Are we making phone calls and sitting with someone in grief and showing up when it's inconvenient? I think about the handwritten cards I've written in 2019. There was a Bible group that I was a part of, and there was a young woman that was in pain and going through a season where she was healing. And I organized out of this group a handwritten card ministry in a way, and I didn't even know that that was actually a thing. At some churches, that is a thing where they actually write cards. And I created this not only for this young woman, but I also wanted to do that for a friend that was also in need in 2025 and 2026. And that wasn't obligation. It was compassion in motion. And compassion in motion heals both the giver and the receiver. Which brings me to key number 3. Presence, hope, restore what modern life steals. In the U.S., we often idolize celebrity, visibility, wealth, influence, followers, and the perception of what we think might be money. And sometimes it is not, just because someone has a lot of followers or they have followers and maybe the engagement isn't really as authentic as we think that it is. But even inside churches and even inside faith communities, we can unknowingly worship and idolize success instead of service and putting feet to our faith with people. We elevate those with platforms while ignoring the least of these. And this happens everywhere, in sororities, fraternities, professional circles, corporate environments, social groups, churches, where group identity can easily become exclusion. And we exclude, and exclusion breeds loneliness. Lived experience, watching and reading the room. Because this happens in workplaces too. Bosses who start warm, then shift. Friends who start kind, then pull away. Romantic partners who love bomb and whose words and actions stop aligning. When we don't read the room, when we don't observe consistent behavior, we could stay stuck in cycles of emotional harm. And presence teaches discernment. Discernment teaches protection. And protection restores our peace. And a cultural truth. Who gets our best? One of my favorite songs and one of my favorite recording artists is Andy Mineo. And he has a lyric in a song that's called Priorities. And it stopped me in my tracks because the lyric says, why do I keep on giving the least to people I say that I love the most? I'm going to say that again. Why do I keep on giving the least to the people I say that I love the most? In America, we give our best work to our energy, our creativity, our patience, our job, our excellence, and the projects that we're working on. And then we give what's left over to our families, our relationships, our friends. And slowly, love becomes leftovers. Presence corrects that. So bringing it all together. We are not broken. We are disconnected, yes. We are not lazy or undisciplined. We are depleted. And we are not hopeless. We are hungry for meaning. And community heals. Purpose grounds us. And presence restores and hope rebuilds. So the reflection question, where in your life, in my life, are we being invited to slow down, reconnect, and put feet to our faith so healing can begin? And notice what comes up for you. Because awareness is where transformation begins. So before you go, thank you truly for sharing this time with me. It's an honor to sit with you in this space. So let's quickly revisit today's 3 keys. Key 1, community is medicine. Key 2, purpose heals what success can't. Key 3, presence and hope restores what modern life steals. And your 1 reflection question, where in your life, in my life, are we being invited to slow down, reconnect, and put feet to our faith so healing can begin? In today's episode, I thank you for sharing this with me. And I hope it offered you clarity, grounding, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you needed. Or if anything I shared today pricked your heart or lit a spark, please subscribe. And share this with someone you care about. And leave a comment so that this isn't a monologue, but a dialogue. And leave a 5-star rating, please, because it helps this space to grow. Let's close with one breath. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. and again at 8 p.m. Central. This is Cut to the Chase at 8 with me, Madison Samone Chase. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. Let's get ready, set, grow, and go. And let's be great. Blessings to you and yours until tomorrow.